we open wide the virtual stage where ideas spark and wisdom fills the page. From the UK to the land of maple trees, John and Mike bring clarity with ease. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine, your message taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine, your message taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we grow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to Lord Zoom Live. I like to have plans. You know, I like to set things out. I like to get things working. I like to have things set up. I like to know what I'm talking about. And the problem is, if you do this too far ahead, world just takes over. Things happen and suddenly everything you planned goes out the window. Not only does it go out the window, your friend in crime can't even get into the meeting because the settings are all wrong. You just don't know what's going to go right and what's going to go wrong, which is quite apt, really, because we're going to be talking about control. And when it comes to control, look, these software guys come up with fantastic pieces of software to allow us to control our worlds. They look beautiful. But Mike, I think the problem is, it's all well and good having pretty displays, but it's really difficult to control an event with a mouse and a keyboard. What would you think? What would you say to that?
Well, hello, everybody. When it comes to, as a matter of fact, I do quite a bit with mouse and keyboard myself through Production Studio, because right now Production Studio doesn't allow me to do too much when it comes to using the Streamdeck products, which John will be talking about here shortly. But when it comes to a lot of my other type of Zoom capable products, then yes, it absolutely makes it a lot more easier for me to, mute myself, unmute myself, when it comes to Zoom specifically. But again, since we are talking about production stuff today, I control a lot of my Stream Deck, and you'll say, Mike, it doesn't make any sense. But yes, I do control a lot of my A10 Mini Pro through my Stream Deck as well. And again, that's using not Elgato specific Stream Deck software, but that is actually using an open source piece of software called BitFocus Companion. So that software in itself has thousands of different production audio and video and lighting equipment that could be controlled by an itty-bitty little 15-button Stream Deck all the way up to the brand new unit, which John's going to be talking about right now.
My friend, that exactly is my point. This has become a fundamental problem for the broadcast industry, as far as I see it, because it's all well and good buying a beautiful piece of software from, say, Blackmagic, VizRT, two of the people we've chatted about, looked at recently. they both have fantastic equipment for video production. And then they have these enormous great control desks, which they then need to supply because people, can't move in a mouse. And that's all well and good. Those control units are fantastic. And guys, I've got room on my desk if you want to send me one. But what happens in the real world, and I know they would prefer us to not to do this, but in the real world, you don't just have one manufacturer you support, do you? You can't easily, and I know a lot of them try to do it, but you can't easily fit out a whole production system just from one manufacturer. There can't be a manufacturer in the world that's good at everything. So you get maybe your control desk from one manufacturer, you have your cameras and controls from another manufacturer, maybe some of your production, creation, editing type software could be from another manufacturer. And suddenly you've got if you could afford it, 3 different control desks from 3 different manufacturers now to lay out on your desk. And this is where these very simple, innocuous little devices, controllers from Streamdeck and others, from this size till very big, as we'll see later, become useful. Because as you rightly say, you can buy a Stream Deck and you can go to the Stream Deck marketplace and you can do all the streamers type things. Like you can use this to control Twitch and OBS, and you can run a small, modest system, small and modest in size and small and modest in cost, but quite effective if you're going to have conversations when you're streaming with your users, when you're gaming. That works really well. But as you start to go up the tree of more complexity, for instance, if I want to change camera, I'm going to have to lean over here because that's where my A10 ISO is sitting to switch my cameras. But it allows remote control. So I can program a button on this Stream Deck or any of the other Stream Decks or any of the other controllers to control that, because beyond this ecosystem, we've got this other set of pieces of software, which, as you mentioned, is originally a community-based solution, which has a piece of software that sits in between these controllers and the systems that we're going to control. And lots. I mean, last time I looked down the list, I was just frightened. I didn't know so much equipment existed. And yet there are all these little modules that have been written by all these third parties to allow their device to come into the ecosystem so it can be controlled by a humble Stream Deck. And it blows me away when you watch TV back house type control room videos of BBC, NBC, and all these other companies who have racks of fantastic top of the range equipment, big lovely screens, desktop controllers that cost tens of thousands, and then somewhere embedded in the middle, have you seen it, Mike? You can spot the odd Stream Deck just sitting there innocuously for the extra buttons that they don't have on their main controllers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And again, when it comes to the different use cases of the Stream Deck, there is we'll be fair with Elgato Stream Deck. Their initial use case was the Elgato line is for the gaming industry. Then the production industry went, well, we've always been looking for such type of interface capabilities that we can customize to do whatever we want it to do when we hit that button. And this is where BitFocus was born. That's the BitFocus company, and then BitFocus Companion, the actual software that is currently still open source. And you can now, as manufacturers or even the community that have taken it over as well, in the case of Zoom, we do have community members that maintain the Zoom capable products that are a plugin into BitFocus Companion, as an example. So it takes, so it doesn't take, as long as there is some sort of documentation on how over the network to be able to control your piece of kit, piece of gear, then, you know, from a camera to a video switcher to an audio mixer to, you know, whatever, really, as long as it is IP based and has some sort of command and response where I can say, okay, this, do something, and it says, yeah, I did it, then BitFocus Companion is perfect for that. Where again, the Elgato Streamdeck software that they currently are using and currently have implemented by default that you would need that at least with the Streamdeck if you bought it from them directly, that is more focused on, as John was saying, Twitch, you being able to go onto YouTube, you being able to broadcast onto YouTube, you being able to control OBS, doing certain functionality in OBS, doing, I don't know if vMix is in there or not. I haven't double checked with that. And again, if I'm using for vMix, I'm making sure that I'm using BitFocus Companion. It's just something that I've gone to. I outgrew the BitFocus Stream Deck software almost immediately because I knew that my focus when I was getting it was going to be using it for the production world. And I knew that I was limited on what capabilities at the time, especially in the days when the original, again, John showed you that was what, the 6 button that you had there, John?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went after mine is the 15 button. And there's, yeah, exactly that one. So that's the one that I went after automatically was the 15 button. But the reasoning behind that was that at the time, because I was an early adopter, that was the model. That was one of the original models. So I didn't have the bigger model or even the small model that John just showed you, where they actually have that in black. And then they were getting really cute and actually having that in white so that it fits your theme in your office. So it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, a black thing on a white table. Let's say you've got a nice white table or such. So in that regards, they're sort of also going down that play too. And in the beginning as well, with the 15 button, they were also coming out with skins. So you could actually put a skin over top of the 15 buttons. But again, focusing on the gaming market, you know, a lot of the skins were themed to be, oh, if you're insert game name here, and they did they would take a popular picture of that and just cut out the 15 holes, then you'd be able to put that on the actual Stream Deck. So it gamified the Stream Deck itself controller. But all it is just a USB connection from the Stream Deck into your PC, Mac, Linux machine, anything that'll accept USB.
Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, I think the physical ecosystem would be a good thing to move on to then, because as you say, it's the Stream Decks traditionally I say traditionally because I have to remember all the things that have now been added to the stuff. But these are traditionally a USB device. They connect to a PC, and then there is Stream Deck software that runs on that PC, and that Stream Deck software can then control something within that PC. And as you say rightly, it's been the marketplace of the streamings industry, the gamers, and that sort of marketplace where Elgato has been spending most of its time. And if you go to the marketplace, the Elgato marketplace for apps, that is pretty much where all the work is being done. And these buttons are a little bit more, I think we've probably undersold them so far, Mike, because these buttons do have a little bit of control. There is a LCD. Let me pull up the one which has got the LCD picture on it at the moment. Oh, no, here's a prettier one I had earlier. So the buttons are actually small LCD screens, which can be controlled by the software, as in the software within the Stream Deck world. And then there are two functions on the button. There's the pressing in of the button and the releasing of the button, both of which can be actions that can be used elsewhere. And it's actually very easy. I'm trying to think of the best word to use there. It's actually very easy today to write simple apps that will work with the Stream Deck software and control the Stream Deck buttons. The latest version of the software is very much easier. In fact, I'm just thinking how I did the last one. I think you can, I got to be careful. I'm not going to guarantee this, but I'm pretty sure that the documentation is well explained to the point where you can probably, because I tried it and I don't think I had many mistakes, you can probably even get a chat GPT or other type AI program to almost write the whole thing for you. The difficult bit of using these devices today is not writing the software for the buttons, because it is easy to use. And as I said, you can use AI. The difficult bit, of course, is the other end, because if you're going to have some buttons to do something, you need to be able to connect to something to do something. And if you don't have a connection to that particular piece of equipment that you can software-wise talk to it, then there is nothing you can do. But the industry already had moved a long way to remote controls through APIs and other protocols to allow it to be talked to. So there are many manufacturers now that have and publish software interface controls that other software, doesn't have to be Stream Deck, could be a piece of software of your own, but these programs can control other devices. Mike, would you like to give us a tour around your studio there and tell us which ones you control remotely? Either you can or can in theory control remotely with a Stream Deck?
Well, sure. Yeah. So again, there are a number of different things that I can do. Right now, again, there's, again, you could actually, with the different BitFocus, the actual BitFocus companion software, of course. We're not talking this generic Stream Deck software currently. So with the BitFocus companion software, again, as I was mentioning, you can control audio equipment, video equipment, lighting gear, if it's networkable. So you would have to have converters that would actually be able to talk to, DMX or ArcNet or whatever type of protocol that you're actually running the lights on. So that would have to be able to do that. But again, as long as there is some sort of documentation for that piece of equipment and it's fairly popular, I know the database for BitFocus is actually quite large. I'm just trying to think what we have here. I'm just taking a quick look here to see what actually I have on my BitFocus companion as we speak. And so right now, it's BitFocus companion is saying that they are over 700 different devices that they can control.
And that's going to be more than 700. Well, they say 700 devices, but that's 700 manufacturers' connections. So some of those 700 are going to have multiple products within a range that will all get the same controls. So it's 700 modules connecting to different things, but actually that's going to represent an even bigger number, isn't it?
Right, exactly. And the capabilities of, if you're able to make your own module within companion, and again, it's not outrageously hard to do. It's more of just understanding how to make, as a manufacturer, how to make the actual module. And if you spend the time to learn the companion documentation, reading the companion documentation, you'll be able to quite easily get a module working for that piece of gear, no matter if the manufacturer themselves or product is actually made a module as of yet. So That's why a lot of the modules that are available in Companion are community based, community supported, and not necessarily brand made and support. Now, that doesn't say that there isn't, because there are brands that are understand that people are using Stream Decks for their gear. Especially, I've seen a lot of use of it in the audio world. More specifically, I know some of the larger touring bands will use a 15, if not the larger model, to actually control each individual different song that will be in the playlist of the artist, as an example. So they'll basically say, "Oh yeah, so I've got this button, and now we're going to do this song now." So I've got that button, and all of a sudden, all kinds of happens, right? All of a sudden, audio stuff start to happen, video stuff start to happen, lighting stuff start to happen. Everything gets all ready to go, and then they're just waiting for the band to start, right? By hitting one button.
Yeah, and let's open it up again from what you said. So the Stream Deck can to a limited degree, and the BitFocus Companion can to a much greater degree. Not maybe we've fibbed to you a little bit because it's bigger than this. I said you can press a button and you've got the two operations of down and up. But as Mike has given away the secret to the next level, in BitFocus Companion and in the Stream Deck, you can have multiple operations that are started by that one press. So you can press a button and then a whole cascade of actions can be sent out to different devices. So as Mike said, you could literally have a button for each song, and you could press a button and the lighting, it will send a message to the lighting controls to set up the next lighting rig for the next song. It can send a message to the audio to turn on the instruments that need to be listened to. It can change the camera directions and what's going to be seen on the LCD screens. You can see I've got a really ambitious band in my mind here, but that's all possible on one button. It just cascades a whole set of effects, and then they can create the whole thing. So the button may be initiation of multiple things that can happen. And this is where I think, personally, this takes it to the next level for the bigger production world. Although I do know streamers who will walk into their studio, and I'm thinking one particular friend of mine, he walks into his studio and he turns on his computers, and with one button, he has all his lights programmed in through, I think he uses those little intelligent plugs, that you can control with Alexa and etc.
Yeah, like a Philips Hue or something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he presses one button and all his lights are all turned on. And they're all initiated, and then he has a couple of different scenes that he likes, depending if he wants intimate lighting or standing on the stage type lighting. So he has a couple of buttons which have different lighting sets. Different lights will come on or turn off or whatever to create a different atmosphere in his studio for two reasons. One is because it's really effective to mix up the studio, and secondly, I think he just likes to show off that he can do it. Well, we'll not say that. We'll not mention his name and embarrass him with that. He's a clever guy, and it's a great way of impressing people with what controls are available. He also has controls that allow him to interact with some things within Zoom. So he can spotlight people, he can raise a hand, he can do clever things like that. He's got controls that allow him to control OBS. So he can change his scenes in OBS, which therefore change the scene that he is in. Might have some pop-ups or some lower thirds or stuff like that all appear. This is a very powerful system, and you can therefore see why, as Mike exampled in the touring band type space, it's very neat. But also within the broadcast space, it's also really neat to be able to hit a button and set off a sort of macro but the macro just doesn't apply to one particular piece of equipment. It can cascade to multiple pieces of equipment. So let's push this a little bit further. Because, Mike, one of the really good things about Companion is we've said that these devices are connected to a machine by USB. And in the world of Streamdeck and Elgato's own software, that's where they stay. But BitFocus Companion thought this is not good enough. And BitFocus Companion can have versions of its software that can run on multiple devices throughout the studio and can even send messages to each other and take over each other's controls. Would you like to expand on that?
Sure. Yeah. So that product is called, in the Companion world, Companion Satellite. So what it does is it says, okay, so I'm a companion on this different PC. Let's use PC as an example, because it could be a PC again, Mac, Linux machine. So I'm running Companion Satellite. And what Companion Satellite needs to do is connect to a companion, shall we call it server in this case. So a Companion Satellite basically can be pretty much anywhere that on an IP network that it can see the companion server. And the reason I said that like that, does that mean it can be on the internet? Yes, it can. But again, your security will vary because there is, using Companion Satellite, you still have to make sure that the port is open between your firewall and Companion server to make sure that things work. So
yeah,
take that in consideration. There is not full security on Companion Satellite. But if you were to VPN, let's say, from a remote location that you have running Companion Satellite locally, and as long as you were on that now local network, and Companion Satellite can now again see Companion server, you can control anything at that remote location. So this is where remote production comes into play without necessarily needing that physical person at that location.
Yeah. And remote control could just be the next studio. Or as you say, if you set the networking up, it could be the next studio is 3,000 miles away, so in another country. So yes.
Next there or different floor, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We are talking about Elgato most of the time. I say most of the time because we have to admit that Elgato has a range, and we've still got some more products to talk about in that range of products that work around these buttons ideas. But the BitFocus Companion world was obviously very interesting to other people that have control devices. And there are, Mike, I guess, dozens, if not hundreds, probably dozens, because I don't think there's that many manufacturers of control devices in the world, but a great deal of them have now written the controls so their control device can work in the BitFocus Companion world, so they can be as well or instead of a Stream Deck, and still going through BitFocus Companion can then control all of these other devices and systems that are out there.
Yeah. Again, this is the great thing about BitFocus Companion is that in the regards of the different type of interfaces, of course, its main focus when it started was the Stream Deck, 100%. So has it specialized itself to work for a Stream Deck? 100%. But it understands that it is, in theory, the Stream Deck really is just a MIDI controller.
Yeah.
It just happens to be a really fancy one that has individual little screens that you can make any color you want, have a picture on it, or words, or text, or whatever. So it is, to your creativity, what is on that button. And as long as you understand what that means on that button as a user, you're off to the races. As an example, I have one right now that says, Zoom cam on, as one of my Stream Deck buttons. So obviously, if I hit that, you would not see my camera. But that's very simple, right? And again, if I wanted to mute or unmute myself, I've also added that as well. So yes, is there something in Zoom that will be able to do this? Yes. And it's more focused on the Mac world, of course, which is the Zoom OSC software. How I've been able to do it a little differently is actually BitFocus themselves have come out with their own piece of software. And it's similar to the just trying to make sure I've got the right information here. When it comes to, yes, that's right. It's called BitFocus, good old BitFocus again in their name, Listener. So what is BitFocus Listener doing? It's listening for it's not specific to software anymore. It's specific to what software you are running that might have a global shortcut, or even a shortcut of some sort where you would do an Alt A or an Alt Z, and it all of a sudden would do some sort of key combination of sorts. And that is how I'm able to utilize with Zoom through the BitFocus Listener. In one button, I'm sending Zoom global shortcut commands to mute and unmute myself, to turn on my camera on and off, as simple examples.
Okay, so we've got a ecosystem with a whole load of controllers. Elgato started it, but many other controllers are now available. And then we have a large number of hardware and software devices that we can send commands to. But we can do better than that, can't we? Because Elgato introduced little twisty knobs. So we can now send a value rather than just an on and off. So we can have a volume up and down, or a screen zoom in and out, or any other type of interface that you want. And again, there are third-party devices that have these. I've seen third-party devices with little T-bars that you can control through the interface. So that you can spend all that money buying some Blackmagic switches, and then you can have the Blackmagic control desk, but maybe that's too big or inconvenient or too expensive. You could simulate that with another control device with a T-bar, or you could use one of these rolling things. And by the way, these are a little screen here, which can show data as well, and is haptic, I think is the word I want to say, so that you can control things on there as well. And of course, some people like me just get carried away and need more buttons. So we've also got this, which is the XL. It's been out for quite a while, and this has more buttons. But I better warn you that this is not the extent of the functions on these devices, because in both the Streamdeck software and the BitFocus companion software, you are not limited to just these buttons. You can have pages of buttons, and you can then have controls to jump from one page to another of buttons. So if you want to take the example, the great example of Mike about the song thing, you could have a whole page of buttons dedicated to one song, because there's different lighting cues during that song maybe. And then you could do a page up and your page down, and you could go to the next song, and there could be a whole different set of buttons with different programs all available to run that. And then you could have another page of buttons to do the opening. You could have another page of buttons to do the closing. You could produce buttons at all levels, and therefore take everything to the next level of controls.
Yep.
And then, of course, you end up with lots of these dotted around. I don't know how many controllers you have in your empire, Mike. I've got.
I've not invested in as many as John has in his hands. Let's put it that way.
Okay, well, I'm already. I've got 9 that I can think of. I will give you.
I've got one per studio is my official answer. So that's my official answer.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I am not running multiples as some of our friends do. You know, the multiple 32 button that John just had up there. I've seen people with 2 or 3 of those.
Yeah.
All hooked up to one BitFocus companion. So 32 times 3. Everybody do the math. Oh, look out. He's going to stomp.
Yeah, my favorite. This is my favorite controller of all of them. And that is for a very simple reason. It's a foot controller. So I can stand on my virtual stage and I can have this in front of me. And like some sublime guitarist, I can just lean forward a bit and hit a button, and then I can have a slide go forward in my PowerPoint or change a camera. And again, this still works. It's only got 3 for those that are wondering. There's a left, a right, and a center. There's only 3 buttons on this unit. But again, you can still use the paging facility to make those 3 buttons be doing different things in different situations. And I wish more manufacturers came out with some decent buttons, foot controllers, because I have seen third-party foot controllers, but they've tend to be, I don't want to insult them, but shall we just say they've been manufactured for cost savings in a factory in the Chinese area rather than for robustness. And although it's been really nice to see these lower priced products come along, because that obviously makes it more cost effective for simple users who have simple needs and a very simple wallet, who want to do streaming and find all these things quite expensive. There are some cheaper versions, but I wish there were more robust versions to compete with the Stream Deck. I have, though, one surprise for Mike.
You do?
I do.
Look out.
Because although I am not an Elgato sponsored person in any way, shape, or form, I was able, this is Friday when this is recorded, on Wednesday to order this unit. And amazingly, it was delivered yesterday. So Elgato obviously had them already in the distribution channel in their little, it's not little, their enormous office, which they share with Corsair, their holding company, I think we would call it, their mother company.
The parent, yeah, the parent company, yep.
Yeah. And so this is,
Massive.
this is well, yeah. Yeah. This is the consummation of one of these and one of those. And like a lot of children, they end up taller than the parents. I think that's probably the way we're going to phrase it, isn't it?
That's fair. That's fair.
And I haven't opened this box apart from breaking the seal just to make sure I could pull it open, because I thought an unboxing for Mike would be something he would like. And again, it's an experience. So there's a nice little top box.
Yep.
And then under it, there's this lovely bag. They always put these lovely bags around the units, and I can't get the bag open without tearing it, which is a shame.
There it is. It's awful shiny.
This is the Moap, mother of all controllers.
Yeah, so we've got 9 across the top, 9x4, so we're 36 buttons on the top. And then we're 6 dials.
Yeah, and 6 haptic touch interfaces as well, with little displays on there. And those displays are better than the buttons in the respect that people have and Elgato have in their software made little dials, so you can have a volume dial and you can see the volume going up and down. So they're more interactive than the standard dials. But this is where I have a bone to pick with Elgato.
Uh-oh.
Because they've also been announcing some really good and cool, and maybe we should look at those sound devices. They've upgraded their sound range, worthy of a discussion in itself, because there are some clever things happening there. But there's a sound device that looks really good, that has its own controller and a little knob on it. This is the new version. It looks absolutely amazing. But traditionally, there's been a version of that audio controller that plugs in behind, and I'm now going to try and take one of these apart, behind the controller. Where is it? It's this one. So when you have one of these, there's a little connector there. And you could plug in this unit at the back, which gives you your access to your audio and connects directly into the Streamdeck.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, because what Elgato are effectively doing there is, and I need to test it to understand exactly, because we know how marketing people aren't always exact with what happens in the real world. But as I understand it, these two devices, the audio devices they've just released and this controller, plug in together and they talk to each other. So they are not, I won't say not requiring a PC, because obviously the controller's got to be connected to something somehow, but they don't really interact with the PC to do the controls, as far as I understand it, which is really neat. But this is where the bone comes out to be picked. They're not compatible with this. Even the new audio devices are not compatible with this.
Right. Yeah.
Because
There's a different module in the back there, John.
Yeah. The
On the
back
new
is
one.
different and you can't physically connect them together. Now, whether you can put a cable between the two and fiddle it, I don't know. But it does explicitly say in the release documentation, which is why I do not have the audio device here, because I needed to go away and work out what the heck was going on with their connections. You can't plug this into directly. It's a beast, isn't it? You can't plug this directly into their new audio device, which is a shame, because that would have made sense to me, to be able to plug in and have your one of these, whatever you like, on a cable, phantom power included, audio device integrated with the Streamdeck directly. That sounded to me amazing. And the other curious about this, which is quite funny really, is that you could order colored buttons. So you could change the buttons from black to a color of your choice. Obviously, only the colors available. I chose silver. But what was entertaining to me was I got 2 packets and I thought, have they double shipped me? No, they hadn't double shipped me. The previous device only had 4 buttons. So they'd mass produced all these sets of colored buttons in 4s. But this device has 6 buttons. So they had to provide me with 2 sets of 4 so I could get my 6 buttons worth.
And you're talking about the actual dials themselves, John.
Yeah.
Right.
So I now have 2 extra dials free. Well, not free. Actually, they were free because it was included. One set was included for free. I think they were £35 or $35 if you wanted another set. So I actually have 8 dials. So I could put 2 on here. I could go black, silver, black, silver. And then I could have all silver on here. A little bit of bling. which Elgato has noticed, as you said, with the overlays. Elgato
Right.
has noticed they can make extra money out of us by offering a few bling things in their lineup that makes silly people like me with more money than sense to go and buy little plastic silver knobs. I could have 3D printed them, couldn't I, really?
But they wouldn't be Elgato buttons or dials then, John.
No, they wouldn't. They
No,
wouldn't.
they wouldn't.
And that would
Nope.
be terrible, Mike.
Terrible. Terrible.
So, what have we learned? There are, or there is, an ecosystem where there are many developers who have enabled lots of hardware, software to connect to this central community resource called BitFocus Companion, which has taken the whole concept from Elgato and effectively put it on steroids.
Right.
Not
My
only,
favorite saying. Yep.
yeah, not only are they opening up the marketplace completely to all these other products that can interface, but they then make it possible for other interface devices, so competitors to Stream Deck, to be able to use the same ecosystem to provide another range of devices that will work in this ecosystem and control things. And we can control with buttons, we can control with knobs, we can get feedback. Stream Deck in its standard has the ability to have 2 different versions, and I've just turned my camera off. How did I do that? I hit a Stream Deck button as I was moving the boxes around. So there we are. So I will celebrate that and try not to do it again. These buttons, controls, a central resource. As you said, we can do it locally, but BitFocus Companion can actually control devices through IP addresses. Again, only really designed for running with your own network. So it could be an office on another floor or just a device further across the studio you're in. But with the technology that we have, we can actually make that worldwide.
Right. And there's also the important thing too, is that if you're a bit of a hobbyist, or if you don't want to actually have a dedicated PC to run BitFocus Companion, there's that infamous little itty bitty little computer called Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
And many people have affixed an actual Raspberry Pi to the back there that John was showing through some 3D printing of sorts, so that they can actually make that now entirely a BitFocus, not a BitFocus Companion satellite, but a BitFocus Companion, because the actual Pi is attached to the back of the actual controller, so the actual Stream Deck. So again, Companion Pi is the software. Good old BitFocus once again, being able to. So if you do want to actually have Companion running on its own dedicated Raspberry Pi on your network somewhere, this is where Companion Satellite now will come into play. And also, it will also allow you to be a lot more flexible too. So going back quickly to the scenario where you're a band, now you have the lighting guy, they have their own Stream Deck. The audio guy, they have their own Stream Deck. The lighting, audio guy has their own, video guy has their own. And again, Companion could be that literally Raspberry Pi sitting at the back of the stage that just sent over the network to all the network gear that's on stage. Do this because I said so, because I hit this one button. So that's where Companion Satellite could then come into play, where they would literally just have to have that companion unit on at their actual front of house, as an example, in the production world. And when we do, when there's large bands and such like that, that's popular. So you'll have your front of house that'll have your audio person, your video person, and your lighting person. They're all there. So you just literally would have to run, in that case, they could, depending on how they have the actual Stream Deck connected to, again, it still needs power from somewhere, either USB or such. But if you did actually have a network capability on it, and there is actually Elgato was listening to that too, and there is actually an add-on where you can actually now plug in from the actual Stream Decks into this unit, and that unit will then give you Ethernet.
Yeah, it gives you an IP address which you can then talk to from other places.
Right.
Yeah.
So there you go. So literally you would just need one of those at each front of house location for each. Audio gets one, video gets one, lighting guy gets one. Now they've got their own, and then all you'd have to do within BitFocus Companion themselves is give them however many pages they want, because you could have up to 100 pages. So again, you could have the lighting guy start at page 10. You could have the audio guy start at page 20. You could have the video guy start at page 30. That's all capable in Companion 2, as long as it's set up properly. But again, that allows the audio guy to put in all his gear and make sure that Companion talks to his audio mixer of choice. Same with the video, Blackmagic, all there. We talk about that many times here on the show. And on top of that too, so the lighting guys, that could be easily any of the different DMX lighting controllers that are out there are already in Companion. And I just wanted to let everybody know, as of us broadcasting this live and as of this recording, Companion's version is 4.2.5.
And then there is another version, a premium version now, called Buttons.
Buttons. Yes, buttons. So this is in conjunction. So initially Elgato made the Stream Deck. So now Elgato started to watch what BitFocus was doing. And now they came up with BitFocus buttons. And Elgato said, oh, okay. And your production people around the world, would they be happy with a 1U rack mount version of a Stream Deck? And BitFocus Companion said, of course, if you will build it as a 1U rack mountable unit. This is the suggestion of the feedback from what we're hearing from the production world. If you want to take that feedback and make a 1U rack mountable BitFocus, let me do this right. 1U rack mountable Elgato Stream Deck, then absolutely. So that was launched within the last, I believe, year or two as well. And that is a 1U rack mountable version of it. Where that's used in the production world quite a bit would be backstage. So where actually the actual rack gear is situated, they would have the equivalent buttons that they would have at the front of house, as I gave you the example, where they would have probably a 32 button, Stream Deck XL for the video guy, one for the audio guy, one for the lighting guy and gal. For them to do that, they would actually have a couple of the 1Us back at so they didn't have to go all the way to front of house, because that could be many minutes to go all the way there to try a few buttons. So they actually had this 1U rack mountable unit that they'll put in a rack on stage so that they can actually start testing. Okay, yeah, let's see how it sounds, if I hit this one for audio. So they'll have like 2 or 3 different ones, one for audio, one for video, one for lighting. And then they'll do basic commands just to make sure that not only is BitFocus Companion listening, but also the gear that's now lifted up into the ceiling, if not flown above the crowd actually reacts to the buttons as it should.
And it has one dial at each end as well. So there's two dials for that
Right.
type
And
of
also
control.
it actually has the capability as well of having more security on it, because it can be left open, and you just don't want people all of a sudden touching, swiping, all of a sudden touching these buttons, because it can be left open. So there is a bit of a similar to like a security type code. I'm trying to think of the technology, John. It's not coming to me, but basically you'd have to swipe it, then it understand it's you, and then you get access to do only certain things on the touch panel.
So there's a new version of software. There's a sort of an actual next generation software that's using this, which is, as you say, is more aimed to add a bit more security and professionalism to the buttons. And I think the way they work is a little bit more clever. It's a bit more control in the way the buttons are used and the way they can interact. And that's
it increase. Yeah, again, that was taking feedback from, and this has been focused, taking feedback from the production industry too, is that, it's all fine and dandy if the Stream Deck's in front of me. Yes, I'm going to babysit it and nobody's going to touch it. Now, if I haven't got eyes on this brand new unit that's a when-you rack mount backstage, somebody walking by can accidentally go, oh, cool, look at all these cool buttons. Let's see what it does. Then all of a sudden you've got lights flying around, you got videos doing all kinds of different things. And of course, Companion's going to listen because it said, oh, you touched the button, I'm going to do what you told me to do. It's not going to be. So that's where they took that into consideration of, okay, what is this person allowed to do? Okay, this person backstage is allowed to swipe his card. And if I need him to, he can hit these 4 buttons. And those 4 buttons are just tailor-made for that person backstage. Should I have a problem when I'm at the front of house for me to do something? And that, again, is just as people want examples of how I would use this, that would be how the industry is using the buttons. Now, again, are they running Companion at that particular point? No. And the big difference between buttons and Companion, there isn't much, but there is enough, where buttons was more oriented towards the production world, and Companion is still they took the best of Companion and put it into buttons. So the modules that are in Companion are cross-compatible with buttons. So the manufacturers and the community people that have already made the Companion module, it will also work in buttons. So that is a huge thing too. And that was one of the major concerns when buttons initially came out, is this mean, as the developers are going, does this mean I have to now write for buttons? Is it going to be different code? And the developers in the back end said, no, your modules will be identical. It's just how we deal with them differently with the additional security and such in buttons will be more tailor made to the production environment when it's more out in the open, especially depending on the situation when it comes to the when-you rack mountable units.
It's a enormous ecosystem, and it's very powerful and it's very flexible, and you can see the options. And I've even seen a friend of mine use one of these little click buttons that is just hidden under a desk, and you can press a button and it then feeds into the system. It's a wonderful world. It's the connectivity example of hardware and systems to compete with the interactive world of software and applications that talk to each other. CRMs that can talk to marketing systems, that can talk to Zoom and communicate. This is our production version of that connection world. where you can have various devices across different manufacturers, all able to be controlled on a single set of buttons. And as Mike said, I used to have this in my London studio. I used to have a small, one of the little ones, and this was controlled by a Raspberry Pi, and I had my lectern, and all I needed to do was provide power and the internet connection, which I did with PoE, and I had a little device with a little Raspberry Pi just sitting behind it. I think I sellotaped mine on. It wasn't very 3D printed, I'm afraid. But that allowed me to go to my lectern and just be able to turn on and off my camera and change a camera and set a second camera and mute myself. And I think that's all. Oh, and then I had a title scene that I could turn on and off. And that was it. And I could do a lot of presentations from that without a lot of effort. And without needing a team of people or me leaning over to click some mouse somewhere to do it. It's a very powerful system, and it's really limited by your imagination and and of course you'll want to play around with lots of toys, of course, which is always useful. If somebody in your organization has the ingenuity to put them into the situations, then they are very useful and good fun. And I am so disappointed you only have one of each in your studios, Mike. We really should encourage you to play with them more.
Ah, yes. So true. So true. Yes. I could always use more buttons. Yeah.
We can always use more buttons. That's probably the best closing statement of this whole show. So whether you're tempted to, like me, to put all your buttons into one box so you can stop having multiple units hanging around the studio, and you want a Stream Deck.
Yeah, with the Streamdeck Plus XL. What a beast.
I can't hold it up for too long. It is quite considerably heavy. But don't worry, I will find lots of things that I can do with those buttons. So it only remains for me to say thank you, Mike, for your time today.
Yes, it was great, John. And again, we'll be doing more and more of these as weeks come along. So do check us out every Friday. Again, we're targeting more towards the production world. So thanks everyone for joining us this week on, Johnny, what are we calling the show again? Ah, look at him throwing things up for me on purpose. Production Professionals Power Hour. Go figure. That's it. So don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to let everybody on YouTube know how much you love our content. And see everyone next week for another edition of the Production Professionals Power Hour. Take care, everybody.
We open wide the virtual stage where ideas spark and wisdom fills the page. From the UK to the land of maple trees, John and Mike bring clarity with ease. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we grow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. To breakout rooms with flair, we've got the tools and we're ready to share. Guest experts drop in, bringing gold each time, with insights and tricks to help you climb. Can't make it live? We've got you still on YouTube and LinkedIn. We're giving that thrill, so tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we glow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. And making life, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Oh, 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 oh. Now take the spotlight, the stage is yours. Bring your message through virtual doors. Each week we gather, and now you know you're not alone, so let it flow. Thank you for joining us, now go and shine. Share what you've learned, your voice, your time. With Lord Zoom Live, your power will grow. It's time to build your